and make sure that we capture this wonderful presentation. We have the presentation from Dr. John Priest now that is that we can link to, and my goal is to add these other wonderful clonal repository presentations, and we'll get a section where we can review these. And some of us who couldn't make the original presentation could come back and see the videos. So we're excited about that possibility too. So I am very pleased to introduce Dr. Tracie Matsumoto, who is the research leader at the National Clonal Germplasm Repository in Hilo, Hawaii. And we have had in Corvallis a great cooperation between the staff at the Hilo repository. There's been vaccinium projects and other projects that we've collaborated on over the years. So I'm really excited to turn over the presentation here and let Tracie begin her PowerPoint and discussion this afternoon. So take it away, Tracie.
Okay, thank you so much, Kim, and thank you for organizing this because it's such a wonderful opportunity to virtually see everyone. So thank you so much. And with that, I shall share. Today is kind of go over a short PowerPoint presentation, and then after that, I have a short video that we were fortunate to get from one of our vendors that we asked him to get some overhead shots of our field, and instead he made us a nice video as a bonus. So we'll get to see that a little later as well. Okay, so with that, welcome to Hilo. As everyone probably knows, we're one of the 3 subtropical tropical repositories in the germplasm system. If you notice, we're all in hurricane-prone areas, so it's always good to have a backup in different locations. Okay. And so today I'm just going to kind of show you or just give you a visual of where some of the locations are. So we're located on the Big Island, or the island of Hawaii, which sometimes makes it confusing because since the state is Hawaii. But so our main facility is located here in the Panaewa rainforest, and this is the germplasm repository. Our main lab is located in Hilo proper, and that's where the laboratory facilities, larger laboratory facilities are. And right now we have a field location in Pauilo, and that's for growing mainly our papaya germplasm. Okay. And so with that, I just want to say eko mai, or welcome to the to our repository. So this is the entrance. So we're co-located at the University of Hawaii at Manoa, College of Tropical Ag and Human Resources, Waiakea Experiment Station. So this is in the Panaewa rainforest, and in this photo you can actually see a little bit of snow on Mauna Kea. So our winter. And so so we are a part of the Daniel K. Inouye Pacific Basin Agriculture Research Center. So we are a center that is composed of 2 units. So for simplicity's sake, we call it the plant unit versus the insect unit, since the acronyms can get quite long. But right now we have 33 acres of tissue culture, greenhouse, and field collections. And so I just wanted to include a photo of our former curator, Dr. Francis Z, since he was the founding member. And so Kim knows him very well. And so we owe a lot to him. So, and it's hard to imagine that he actually retired in January 2014. I was putting this together. It's been a while, but he is very missed. And then I kind of wanted to get into the repository staff. And so when you first walk in the building, what you'll usually see is Carol, and she's our grin guru here. And so she processes all of our orders and also assists with the pineapple collection. Then you'll see Claire Arakawa, who's our plant tissue culture technician. And so she's usually in her little room busily subculturing her little babies. And then in the field, we have Amy Strauss, Russell Kai, and Jason Okamoto as our full-time technicians. Oh, I just noticed I'm missing our cacao technician, Eddie Buffel. And we also have a student, Brandon Field, and coincidentally, just today, our Pathways person is starting, and he's on a Pathways position for our curator position. And so this is Ryan Domingo. And we are also given a lot of support by our research plant pathologist, Dr. Lisa Keith. See, here are some of the diseases. Being in a subtropical tropical area, we never have a winter to kill anything off. So it's a constant struggle with diseases and insects. And so here's some with longan. We have guava scab. I'll give you more information, a little bit more on the macadamia quick decline and corky bark on Lanceum. Lisa's also been very instrumental in helping with the rapid ohia death, which was assisting our forest service sister agency. And as of end of October, she's also dealing with coffee leaf rust that was found on Maui as well as in the Kona region on the island. Okay, so these are our primary crops that we grow here. You can kind of go down the list. I guess some of the unusual ones for you would probably be some of the breadfruits. We have a lot of, I don't know if you see a lot of rambutan, pulasans, pili nuts, but I'll go more into detail for each of the crops. Okay. So for an overview, this is our main facility area. And so you can see we have our office, lab, and head house. We have our plexiglass greenhouse. And but if you'll notice, and as well as in our pineapple house, we do have a quarantine house that is made out of hollow tile. But you'll notice that a lot of our buildings are actually what they call, ARS considers rain shelters, or it's a hoop house with just plastic and shade cloth. And that seems to work well in our environment just because of the air circulation as well as the copious amount of rain that we get. So, okay, so we'll start off with the collection. And so one of our larger collections is the pineapple collection. We have 239 local accessions. A lot of these came from the Pineapple Research Institute, which was a joint research venture by the large pineapple companies in Hawaii. So it was quite interesting. Dole, Del Monte, AmFac, they had all put together money to do research, to do a lot of breeding, and then they were able to divide out the pineapples for each of the different companies. And so when that closed, we were fortunate to get some other material. Okay. And so we have been working with Maria. So Maria has developed a cryopreservation system for our pineapple plants. And so we're looking to try to implement that as another long-term backup for us. Okay. So in our greenhouse, this is one of the, I guess, great inventions that they did, because as you can see from the pineapples, they're very top heavy. And so any type of wind, and they'll fall over, tags will fall out, and it's really hard to keep track of. So Francis had come up with was, if you put a pot, you tag the pot with the label, and then put it into these pots, a secondary pot that's actually attached to the bench, then you'll find out the plants do not fall off the bench. And so it is a good way to keep the plants from being mislabeled. Okay, another problem that we have is pineapple mealybug wilt virus. So right now they're up to, I think, 6 of different viruses. But the interesting thing is that only some of them will actually cause the pineapple mealybug wilt disease. And so this is a problem for us because what we do is now before we distribute any pineapple germplasm, we have to be sure and test for all of these just to make sure that we're not perpetuating the disease. And so with that, Ryan was finished his master's and did his master's thesis on looking at pineapple tissue culture for pineapple mealybug wilt elimination. And so what he did is he was able to get different sizes of explants, either 1 millimeter or 2 millimeter final size of the explants from different parts of the pineapple. And what he did is he initiated it, subcultured it every 3 weeks. And here you can see a close-up of the 1 millimeter explant. So they have very good eyes and very steady hands. And what you can see is the best or the cleanest material came from the top portion of the pineapple stem, as well as if you can go down to 1 millimeter in final explant size. There you do run into the problem of over sterilization because the bud size is so small, but so a compromise can be to get you can get more material from the top and middle portions of your pineapple stem. Okay. Our next crop is the artocarpus or breadfruit. And so this one, we have about 41 local accessions as well as about 200 at the National Tropical Botanical Garden on Kauai. And so these are maintained as field and tissue culture. And so because this is one of the canoe plants brought in from the Polynesians, this crop is very popular in Hawaii, and it's a hypoallergenic food and something that they have a ulu cooperative where they're trying to look at ways to better market it, making flowers and other value-added products. So there's a lot more interest in this collection. We like to say that the advantage of the in vitro preservation is that you can see I put a test tube here on the leaf, and so you can see how much smaller we can keep our backups when we do it in tissue culture. A while ago, we had a problem where we have a problem with wild pigs, and they decided to come in one night and just strip the bark off of all the breadfruit trees. And so Francis had installed this very sturdy fence to prevent them from coming in. So, okay, and then we're going to switch gears to starfruit. And here is propagated by air layers or cuttings. This is a nice new field that, so before Francis retired, he did a really nice job of trying to rejuvenate the entire collection to make sure they were either grown on their own root system to prevent any mislabeling. And so he had prepared very well. And so we're fortunate to have a lot of newer fields. Okay. Also, just the trivia. So if you know anyone who eats starfruit, just be sure that they aren't going through kidney dialysis or anything. Here is peach palm, which is commonly grown for either most commonly grown for their hearts. So this is where your heart of palm comes from your salads. What we did is the University of Hawaii had a research project to look for different germplasm. Maybe in the 80s or so. And so we were able to inherit some of their selections. And so we usually keep only the spineless varieties here because the spine varieties are quite nasty to try and maintain. These are all maintained in the field. And some of the growers in Hawaii have been making their own selections for larger fruit sized ones, because if you eat it, it becomes like a boiled peanut. And so some people like to eat that as a snack. Okay. And here's Canarium ovatum, which is called pili nut. This is very common in the Philippines, where often you'll see this as a candied fruit. I mean, a candied nut that they sell. The outside of the fruit area is very, very turpentiney, and it stains really, you can stain your fingers very purple. And the inside the nut is a little bit more triangular. And it's I guess this is one of the hardest nuts to crack. And so this is even harder than the macadamia. And but when you do get into it and open it, the nut is very good. If eaten fresh, it almost has it's almost like a pistachio-y, it's a very buttery, creamy type of flavor to it. So, okay. And then we move on to our papayas and papaya relatives. So Carica papaya is what most people are probably familiar with as fresh fruit, but the diversity in this collection is very interesting. So you can see some of the Vasconcelia as well as our Gudosiana and Monoica. So you can kind of tell by looking at the flowers that they're all related, but we even have one that actually goes dormant in winter, which grows more like a vine. So this is a very, very a lot of people that come and see the jacar jacardia often say it looks like the trees from that you would see in Dr. Seuss's book. So it's very whimsical and curvy, and so inspiration for Dr. Seuss. Because of the papaya ring spot virus, we've had to move a lot of our regeneration to a field that I had showed you on the Hamakua Coast, which is Pawilo, which is about an hour drive away. And so because of the here, we don't have neighboring farms that could introduce the papaya. Uh, so, we grow some of the seedlings here. And so here you can see we plant a bunch of seedlings, and then when they flower, we select for the hermaphrodites and then remove the rest. So because of pollination, what we do is before the flowers open, we bag them, uh, basically allow the seeds to develop. And then what we were able to do is from those seeds, we just wanted to make sure that they weren't contaminated with um, transgenes, because 80% of the population rainbow or sunup papayas. And sorry if I just got a notice that says my network might be full, so please let me know if I
Could
accidentally
you
stop.
say that sentence again, Tracy? That
Sure.
one right before rainbow.
Oh,
We
okay.
we missed that.
Okay. So 80% of the papaya grown in Hawaii are actually the rainbow papaya. And so what we wanted to develop a method to ensure that our germplasm wouldn't be contaminated with the transgene. Yeah. And so we had developed these primers, and what we did is able to do a dilution where we spiked one seed into either 100, 250, 500, 1,000, or 2,000 seeds of non-transgenic, and we wanted to make sure that we can reliably testing 3 sets of 500 seeds, we can ensure a 99.9% confidence level that we are transgene free. So this is part of our protocol for ensuring the germplasm. Um, because what we also found out is that um, luckily, if we use transgenic plants on our borders, we can actually protect our non-transgenic plants grown inside. And so that's kind of a nice coexistence method. And so we had designed this experiment. We got nothing. And so we had thought, well, maybe there was no papaya ring spot virus in our field at all. So this is where our And then Russell planted some of the uh, regular papaya without the border, and we found out that we did get papaya. So it does seem that the border planting does work. Okay, and then switching gears to longan. So this is a popular, this is also called dragon eye. And so it's related to lychee. It has a clear arrow with a black seed, thus the name dragon eye. And so we have 24 local accessions of these. These are very popular for Chinese New Year. And so there is an interesting story that goes along with this. So one of the researchers in Taiwan noticed that whenever they used fireworks for any of the um, ceremonies that at the temples, that about 6 months later he'd see fruits on the trees. And so this is uh, the nice classic experiment where he got firecrackers, he put it on the tree, and sure enough, it flowered 6 weeks later. So then he took out each component of the fireworks and then added them to different longan trees. And sure enough, he found that potassium chlorate was the cause and can cause off-season flowering in longan. And so here, if you have your igami tree, you apply the potassium chlorate to the bottom, irrigate, and then within 6 weeks, you'll start to see flowering. Within 12 weeks, your flowering is completed. And within about 8 months, you'll see, you get your harvested fruits. And so this has been really instrumental for the growers here, longan growers here, to be able to provide longan fruit year round for their markets. Okay, and then we're going to move on to the relative of lychee, longan, which is lychee. We have currently 94 accessions. Um, Francis had developed, and I had developed a method to get consistent production in the Kaimana lychee. And so this is just a before and after of pruning. And by timing the vegetative growth so that you're actually done with vegetative growth at the time of our winter, which is usually about January, from December to January, then you'll get a good flowering season and able to get heavy fruit production. And then we'll also switch gears into macadamia, which is a popular nut in Hawaii. And so here we have our 31 local accessions. A lot of these were developed by the University of Hawaii. We now know that they actually come from a very narrow region in Queensland, actually, from the molecular analysis. We also have a lot of the relatives, which the Athertonia actually has a beautiful purple nut that is very, very pretty to look at. I've never tried actually eating it though, but, and then we also have a Hixbechia, which actually has more of a red fruit and seed. But once you look at the flowers, you can see the macadamia nut family resemblance. Another major problem that we have here is macadamia quick decline. This was a problem maybe in the early 2000s or so, which was originally caused by Phytophthora infestans, but now we know we see this problem again re-emerging, and so Dr. Lisa Keith was able to determine the causal agent of this new Phytophthora is macadamia quick decline is Phytophthora heaviae. And so what you'll see is your macadamia tree will look fine, and then really quickly within a day or two, you'll notice the leaves will turn brown, and then you'll see a kind of brown and green leaves on the ground, and you'll see these bleeding coming from the stems. And once you cut it, you'll see that the discoloration. So unfortunately is here. I'm sorry, yes. And so here you see the old one caused by Phytophthora tropicalis. And here you see our new pathogen, um, the heavy A. So acerola or Malpighia is this is the crop that I've always been interested in because I never understood why we had a collection of acerola. But so I did finally find out from someone who said that someone was actually growing it as a potential crop in Hawaii. And so they had brought in all of these commercial germplasm. However, I think the climate wasn't worth it. And then the bearing was so low that they decided not to pursue it as a economic venture and donated the germplasm to us. So it's not really happy. It doesn't really like our wet climate at the germplasm repository. But in the greenhouse, we will get nice size fruits. Okay. Here's another relative of lychee and longan, and this is our rambutan. And so you can see rambutan has the nice long arrows as well as the pulasans, which have the shorter nibs. And so the pulasan is actually a crop that more people are interested in. It's just the propagation has been a little bit harder. Whereas the rambutan, the Hawaii growers can't really compete with some of the foreign sources. Our Passiflora collection, we're currently in for the process of rebuilding our collection because our old collection was infected with a potty virus. So we do have new plants that we're trying to bring in or reintroduce into the collection because of that loss. Unfortunately, because it is considered a weedy species, we do have to kind of keep it in quarantine to make sure it doesn't escape. Our other collection is the guava. And so this is a popular collection that we have both everything from the juicing to the white. I'm not sure if people have ever tried the white dessert guavas that are really crispy. Unfortunately, fruit flies love these these fruit as well as people. So um, we've been maintaining these. Okay. And so recently we were fortunate to get uh, coffee added to our germplasm. And so right now we are actively collecting a lot of, or getting ready to collect the coffee to add it to our germplasm. The first step is we're getting it locally. And so fortunately, the Hawaii Agriculture Research Center, or HARC, which is located on Oahu, had been doing a lot of breeding with coffee. And so this is Dr. Chifumi Nagai with one of the selections that she had in Kauai. And so what we're doing is we're kind of moving the collection that they have there. So these are some of the different varieties at HARC. And so what we're doing is we're first moving over the inbred lines because those can be moved as seedlings. And then once those are done, then we'll probably concentrate more on the grafted material or materials that has to be grafted. And then from there, we're also going to be looking at seeing if we can get some collections from maybe Cartier and other sources. Yeah, once we work out the APHIS permits. Okay. Another thing that we do is we also back up the avocado collection in Miami. And because laurel wilt was first discovered in Georgia, and so it was on the red bay tree, and it was interesting because they found out that the fungus had moved through a barbecue truck that carried infected wood, and so they could kind of trace how that disease moved throughout Florida. And so unfortunately, it got really close to Miami where the avocados repository is. So what we did is we started a venture where we were moving or backing up their collection as well. So ARS Miami sends the seeds as well as a clean rootstock to Fort Detrick, where they graft it and test it for laurel wilt. And then once they get a clean material in Fort Detrick, then they would send it to us here in Hilo, where we graft this clean sign material onto the new facility. We test it, and then once it's free, then we'll move it to the greenhouse. I'm sorry, I don't know what happened to that slide. But in addition, we also test for avocado sunblotch, because that's a viroid that's present in Miami, but we want to make sure that we don't get it here in Hawaii because it will cause tree decline. And so Barbie, we've been working with Barbie and David Kuhn at Miami. And so they had tested all of their material on their repository, and we've been doing it here. So she did come over and teach Ryan how to do the testing. So we do periodically still test the germplasm that we've transferred over. Another new problem that we just got, maybe at the end of last year, was avocado lace bug. And so this is one that actually does do a lot of, looks like leaf scorches on our leaves. And so this has been kind of a never-ending battle against this one. Okay, in addition to avocado, we also back up the collection, cacao collection in Puerto Rico. And we have the backups as in the greenhouse as well as the field. And so we're also working with Miami to evaluate some new accessions at cooperative locations in Hawaii to see how their chocolate or flavor yield as well as flavor profile is. Another thing that we are dealing with is little fire ants. And so these are very, very tiny ants that will actually bite quite a bit. And so what we do is we just wanted to make sure or check our screen, our entire facility, which is 38 acres. So we are very fortunate to have such a great team. And so what we did is we actually had people stand 10 feet apart. So I guess we could do it now because we were obeying social distancing back then. But we have everybody lined up against the fence, and they walk forward for so many feet, and then they'll drop a peanut butter with a stick. And so you can see the people lining up throughout the fields. And so with their peanut butter stick in hands, and you just walk, drop, and then we ended up with this type of map. So we know and where our negatives are, so that we can actually go in treat the hot spots. Unfortunately, because these ants like to grow in trees and everything, it'll actually rain on people. So they've had farmers that have gotten bitten all over their necks. They bite the eyes of pets, and so a lot of times the pets go blind. So it's a very, very bad pest. And then the last thing we do is we have fences and signs to keep out both our pigs as well as our two-legged friends, because I'm not sure about the rest of the repositories, but we get a lot of unwanted visitors. Last year, they had actually taken a lot of the avocados right before Amy was going to harvest them for rootstock. And so the damage that they cause is really expensive once you add up all the costs that it takes us to replace that material, or the time lost in getting that material back. And of course I had to add this one in. This is an older project, but this is something that we had done in collaboration with Corvallis, and that was looking at ohelo as a new crop for Hawaii, either for jams or jellies, or also as an ornament. It makes a beautiful ornamental plant. So if you could use it for Christmas, it's very, very beautiful. Okay. And another project that Dr. Z had started was introducing tea as a new crop for Hawaii. And so this has actually taken off quite a bit um, for some of the growers here. Okay. And with anything, it's awesome that I have such a great team to work with. And so here's a picture of a more recent picture of a lot of them. And with that, I want to say thank you. And I'm not sure if I have time for the 5-minute video.
Oh, please, yes, we'd
Okay.
like to see the video.
Okay, great. Okay.
Yeah, there's lots of time yet.
Okay. Okay. I wasn't sure if I added the video. Okay, here we go. And so it's here. He's can you hear the music as well?
We're not getting audio, but maybe it'll take a while to sync.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm wondering if when I say share, am I supposed to? Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. Okay. I just saw those buttons that I
Oh, now we
didn't click.
hear. Now we
Okay.
hear.
So this is as you're coming into the property, and you see we're going through the University of Hawaii fields, and you can see us located here. And this barren area is actually the field that we cleared for our coffee germplasm, as well as we might also look at moving some of the lychee and some other older crops. Our avocado below, and our lychee trees off to the right. So this is coming back on the field. You see our new avocados. And the area to the right is what we use for our papaya seed generation. Here you can see some of our lychee trials, as well as our new breadfruit population here. Pig roofed. You can also see the nice view of our new coffee field.
Are you sure it's 38 acres? It looks like a lot more.
Yeah, unfortunately, our fields are kind of interspersed with the university's fields as well. So here's our older lychee collection that we're thinking of replanting and respacing since it is a little bit overgrown. You can see some of our pili nuts, our longan, as well as we also have some pili nuts, our guavas, star fruits, and our guavas, as well as our peach palms. We also have some durian. I don't know if everyone has tried durian, but so that's something definitely everyone should come and at least try it. Francis said that if you can eat it 3 times and you like it, then you'll be hooked for life. But unfortunately, if you eat it 3 times and you don't like it, then unfortunately you probably won't like it. And so this is F2, which is one of our older fields. So you can see where we had moved some of the guava collections to the new site. You can see our macadamia nuts, rambutan, peely nuts. We also do have a little bit of mangosteen growing in this collection. And then we do have a little bit of some of the older longan trees as well. And the reason why we try to keep a large pathway between the forest and the fields is for weed control, as well as the fire ants will come from the forest and they'll kind of blow with the wind onto our fields. So. And unfortunately, if you see in the forest, you see the brown or dead trees, that's due to the rapid Ukiah death. And outside the fence, you can also see a lot of the pig damage.
Oh. Oh, Tracie, thank you. That was inspiring. Oh, I just, I have to jump in and first let's, those of you, if you can go down to your reaction button and give a little bit of a clap or, that was an absolutely very inspiring talk to us. Tracie,
great.
we're really appreciative. I'm going to jump in with the first question. You guys recently had a big volcano. How is that affecting your germplasm maintenance and conservation efforts?
Well, unfortunately, well, I guess the main thing was unfortunately, one of our technicians, Amy, lost her home to the lava flow, and so that was kind of the
Amy lost
main
her
thing.
home. I'm so
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
Oh,
So that was yeah, quite devastating. But for the germplasm itself, it wasn't too bad. We were restricted in certain areas, traveling to certain areas, of because of Ka'u and because of the fog and everything. But luckily, we haven't had that problem too much. Other than that, and then now the volcano has actually stopped erupting, and so now there you can actually see a lake forming in the crater. So, oh, I think you're on mute, Kim.
yes. That's up where the museum used to be.
Yes, so the Jagger Museum is no longer there because you can actually see a crack in the foundation. So the building actually has a crack in it.
Wow.
So they had to relocate. But yeah, so that area is all closed down.
Well, I'd like to open up right now to our group and ask if anyone has a question. You can either ask it yourself, or if you want to put it in the chat box, I'll monitor the chat box. Do I have a first taker for any questions?
Can I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead, Todd.
Thank you. All right. Hi, Tracie. I'm Todd Anderson. I'm a new PhD student here in Corvallis. I actually just finished up at University of Hawaii at Manoa for my master's. I was working with sweet potato, and my question was pertaining to, I had my trials, one at Pomoho and one at Manalo. And at the Pomoho trial, it was amongst all the old former breeding orchards for the university. And I was wondering, whenever I asked a question, like they just told me like, oh, there's no more active breeding program. Everything was moved to Hilo. And it was just the abandoned orchards there of longan and mostly longan and mango, but also a lot of other crops. So I was wondering, aside from with the university, are there any active breeding programs with rootstock or seedling selections or clonal selections with any of these tropical crops still going on actively?
Not so much. We do have a breeding program more for papaya. But just because it's such a long-term project, we're actually going back and looking at some of Dr. Ito's old selections, and so we actually have one that we're currently evaluating, which is a lychee, and so it's a sibling of Kaimana, and so it actually it's a more leggy type of growth. It has a later season though, so it will come in a little bit later, but yeah, that's about it. And then we're also looking at some of at least preserving or genotyping a lot of their collection as well to make sure that it is backed up at other locations. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. It was nice seeing your presentation and seeing that I'm not the only person in Hawaii that had a pig problem with the
Oh
research.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. And actually I should have shown a picture of our new fences because we've had to increase it quite a bit. But right now I think we have it down pretty well.
It looks like Nahala might have a question.
Yes. Hi, Tracy. So nice to
Hello.
meet you. Thank you so much for the wonderful presentation that you've given us today. Of all the crops that you're working with, which one do you think right now there is interest in, I guess, domesticating it further or growing it more in Hawaii or in the US?
Okay, so I think, well, actually right now, as of end of October, everybody wants us to get in the rust-resistant coffee varieties. And yeah, looking more at I guess diversifying or expanding the diversity to include a little bit more disease resistance for that. Um, um, Actually, Ray Ming has done an interesting study where he's actually showing that the clonal crops actually are more related to their ancestors because of because there's less actual physical breeding with those, and so the selection. So right now he's working with our macadamias because it's a lot less breeding and more selection. So that's another one that people are a little bit interested in as well.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Tracy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see any. I don't see anything in the chat box. Who else might have a question they'd like to ask Tracy? Well, Tracy, I think Hilo has just been an excellent example of collaboration between gene banks. I seem to recall, well, certainly with the tropical, subtropical gene banks, you folks have collaborated a lot where I think there's like a grapefruit collection that you guys were backing up. Is that still going on?
The grapefruit? Sorry.
Yeah, maybe I have that one wrong, but certainly the avocado example that you
Yes.
gave and the
Oh, yes.
cacao.
Yeah, and we also, what we try to do is we try to identify a core collection and then make sure it's at multiple, either Miami and Mayaguez or so we do try to do that as well. And Puerto Rico will also be our backup for the coffee collection as well.
I see that John Suzuki had his hand up. Maybe he has a question.
Oh, okay.
Did you want to unmute?
Well, actually, I didn't have a hand up.
Maybe that was
I'm
just one of
sorry.
those buttons.
I'll talk
Hello,
to.
John.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm here at Hilo also, and I'm familiar with a lot of what JC was saying, but I agree it was even if I'm here, it was a great presentation representation of the germplasm there. So,
Oh,
yeah. But
what
thank
is
you,
your
Tracie.
task, John? What do you work with at Hilo?
So I have just a narrow project, but I working with anthuriums. We are trying to develop a blue anthurium biotechnology, and I also working with the papaya, trying to make a virus-resistant papaya, a new generation of
Oh,
resistant papaya. So not as large a plate as Tracie has.
Oh, no, no, no.
So, but
Actually, John is being modest because he's the one that did all the background, a lot of the background research for getting the transgenic papaya approved in Japan, and he's also been
oh.
with that helping being worked for in China as well, which was recently approved.
I don't know if
thank you.
everybody at my unit or on the call is aware about Dr. Gonzalez's transgenic papayas that the rainbow, of course, that is out there, and the system of surrounding an organic production of papayas with the transgenic to protect it from the virus encroaching. What a brilliant system. And I'm really glad to see that you guys are implementing it in your germplasm conservation practices. That's just a great way to carry on this generation of results that have been determined. So that's really,
Yes,
really
thank you.
nice.
Yeah, Tracie really demonstrated very clearly that the transgenics can provide protection to non-transgenics. So it's a good way to promote both.
Example
Yeah,
of
yeah.
use of the transgenics, and yes, very much so. We have a question from Claire Heinz. She's curious about the unique PPE that is needed in working with spiky pineapple germplasm.
Yeah, actually, so I think Carol and Bren, they wear a face shield as well as use thick leather gloves when dealing with a lot of the pineapples and long sleeve shirts because it will it will stab you. And some of them have serrated tips on top of their already pokey leaves. So yeah, it's pretty painful. But yeah, usually the eye protection is a absolute must though.
Maybe we could write up a little side thing of dangerous germplasm we have known
Yeah.
in the different collections, and
Yeah, definitely.
summarize some of these challenging types. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
it looks like Todd has another question. Todd, I'll let you ask this question on the Anthurium project, I think, for Dr. Suzuki.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, Dr. Suzuki. I was just wondering if the project was with Peter Tobes from University of Hawaii at Manoa, because I worked in the same lab as him, and he had his anthuriums in that lab as well. So I was wondering.
So we collaborate with his major professor, Dr. Amore, but he's pursuing that on his own in a way. I mean, so we sort of want to have some duplicity so that because he's using his own strategy, and we just want to produce the product for the growers, so we don't really care about who gets there, I guess. And I sort of working with some of these just gene transfer technologies right now to address other problems we have in tropical fruits and recalcitrant plants, like gene deliveries and things that we can't do easily in a lot of non-model crops. Yeah, so some kind of development that could be used for many different things besides actually just the blue genes. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Can I ask another question? I like tropicals. That's why I keep.
Go ahead, one more, Todd.
Um, so since you guys have the durian collection, I was wondering if you guys also have marang and other close other relatives of durian, and how are those
Yes.
performing in Hawaii? Because I remember the farmers I talked to that tried growing it, at least just a hobbyist on a walk, were saying that they had a hard time getting it to flower. And
Uh,
I was wondering if that was the case, or how do you guys get around that?
no, we actually get a nice crop of meringue. It's just it's the shelf life is so short on that, and so I guess that's the main thing. And I guess that one is also an acquired taste as well as the durian. So we do have that. Durian, we do actually have a lot of different species of durian, and so they seem to be doing well. Sometimes we do get a little bit too wet for it, but so in some seasons we will get that softer fruit, but in general we don't have too many problems. Yeah, are you a durian fan?
I am, yeah. Actually, my family's from Mindanao, and last time we were there, we got kicked out of a hotel because we brought a marang from the family farm into the hotel, and someone smelled it in the luggage. So
Oh no. Yeah, I think Ken Love actually got kicked off a Hawaiian Air flight because he was trying to bring some.
They found him out, did they? That's funny.
Yes, yes.
thank you.
Well, Tracie, I have one other question, and that is about your distribution. How has this COVID situation affected your distribution to your requesters?
So it has actually quite a bit. So we've been actually a lot more strict in giving out our germplasm. But if it is a valid university type of request, then Carol will do her best to get those out. But in some ways, we've been fortunate that we've actually used it as a way to say, okay, we can't distribute things. But people tend to get very upset.
Do you pay the postage for the offshoots and suckers that you distribute?
We do. Unfortunately, a lot of people want the pineapple, and because of all
Ah,
the virus issues, we can only distribute that as tissue culture. And so, for some reason, that has been very, very popular. So we try to um, get people to, if they can get it from another source, highly encourage or try to find another source for them. But unfortunately, we have been distributing it. Yeah.
yeah, there's challenges with the clonal distributions, that's for sure.
Yes, and and sometimes, of course, you probably get the request too, where they want sign material, and then you ask them, okay, do you have rootstock? And they're like, oh, we have this different species, and you're like, that's not going to work.
Yes, or the ones that write back and say, what are these sticks that you sent me? When they were expecting a full plant.
Yeah, a lot of people want the rooted cuttings and everything. So
Yeah, that's the challenge of clonals.
yes,
Well, I really appreciate your presentation, and I know I speak for the group at saying thank you. Let's all give another round of applause here for Tracie, and I think we can, do whatever the yay. And
thank you.
we hope that we can do more than virtually visit Hawaii sometime coming up after this pandemic is over. So thank you very much. And
Okay,
I'd
thank you.
like to remind everyone that tomorrow at 1:30, Dr. Robert Kruger of the Citrus Collection, he's the curator down at Riverside, will be giving us a presentation on the citrus and date collections. So we'll see you again tomorrow at 1:30. So bye-bye, everybody.